Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2017 Year in Review podcast with the live feed correspondents. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm joined by my illustrious colleagues. First is Melissa, who really, as I mentioned, was so ashamed of her performance in the draft, even though she came a lot closer than I think she thought she would to winning. But that she's been a little absent, but she's here with us tonight to talk about Big Brother. How you doing, Melissa?
Well, first of all, I was not ashamed. I was more than proud. I just didn't anticipate this crazy twist coming in and making it so my person who would have won lost. So, I'm totally proud of what I did, because who would have thought that this crazy twist, terrible twist, would have come into play? But also, I was going to say we do not need to put out a missing persons report because I am alive and well.
And I also just want to say really quickly, and not that Melissa doesn't have a life, because she does, but she was more than willing to podcast with us on the previous podcast. It was just material that she wasn't up to date on. So it wasn't like she wasn't around to podcast people. It's just that, she wants to know what she's talking about before she comes on and yells at you all.
I felt bad. I'm like the worst at watching Survivor and keeping up with it, because I was so busy at work this past month, and then it was like they started piling up and I had like 4 episodes that I hadn't seen, and I was like, okay, I cannot podcast about this. It was just, it'd be irresponsible.
We've had guests on before that didn't watch the episodes that they talked about. I won't name names. But yes, for anyone that wasn't listening to any of the Survivor podcasts, we're not going to spoil the winner or anything, but you can rest assured that well, just in case anybody hasn't watched Survivor, but just so you know, I have in fact taken the draft champion title back from Brent. He took it once. I was undefeated for so long, and now I'm back in the winner's seat. So don't you worry. Once we draft, future Big Brother seasons, I will be the winner again. So, Brent, on that note, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am Brent Wolgamott, a.k.a. One Lucky Gay, a.k.a. Besties with Joe from Survivor 35. You mean me?
Yes. That's about all there is. We are here to talk about the year 2017 in Big Brother. We did this last year. We had 3 seasons to talk about last year because of OTT. But this year we've got only 2 seasons to talk about. Big Brother Canada 5 and Big Brother 19. So if you haven't watched one of those seasons, you can still listen to this podcast, but we'll let you know that there will be spoilers. Come on, guys. You gotta watch both. So really, we're just going to be talking about, some of which season we preferred, which winner we think is better, who the best players are, what the best moments were. And when we say best, we also probably mean what were the worst as well, because I don't know how many best moments there were in the year of 2017 for Big Brother. So, and we'll just recap the year as a whole. What did we think? What did it do for Big Brother? What are we looking forward to moving forward into the future? Who knows? We're going to find out. So we are live here on RHAPups.com. You can go to the chat room and talk to us there. There are people talking about my hair.
What's the chat room?
Janet. You can find it on the RHAPups website page. And you can send in questions to me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran if you so desire, and we will do our best to answer them. Though this is not really a question show. If I see one in there that's a good one, I'll pick it out and we'll talk about it. So let's get started. First of all, yes, we have to talk about the 2 seasons. And Brent, I want to know from you, overall 2017, did you like Big Brother in 2017?
I mean, it's I'm a little Fencerton about it, because I love Big Brother Canada 5. I thought it was everything. I thought it gave me exactly what I wanted. Even the winner was somebody that I was actively rooting against, and he's a really, really sweet guy outside of the Big Brother house, Kevin Martin I'm talking about. But, I always feel like you have to have good heroes and villains, and obviously Ika and Dimitri were the king and queen of Big Brother Canada, and I was there for them. I was rooting for them all the way. I was in. And Kevin was the chink in the armor that they just couldn't fix, and somehow he made his way to the end. So I have to think that I enjoyed Big Brother because of that experience, that rivalry between the two of them, and Kevin, and also the hilariousness, I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it up, of Karen's Karen Singbell. I mean, she's very, very cool. She played someone like how I would in the house, like if I was a fan. I remember Alex Kidwell criticizing her one time for, like, Karen, you're not a fan anymore. You're actually in the house. But I didn't think there was anything wrong with her playing as a fan while she's in the house because, it's your show. You can do what you want with it. It's like Once Upon a Time. It's your story. You can write whatever story you want, Taran. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Doc Brown says, the future isn't written yet. You know what I mean? All right. But Big Brother 19, Melissa, I'm sure you're with me on this. It left such a sour taste in my mouth. The only saving grace about Big Brother 19, literally the only things, were Jessica and Cody and Josh is the winner. That was it. And I can't even get on board as much with the last one. It was more that Paul didn't win than Josh did win, although I did love Josh, but he really on par now that we have a little distance from it. He wasn't an amazing player, I'll just say that.
Yeah, I have very similar feelings. I feel like Big Brother Canada, like, I really liked watching the season, but I felt like it was a season of, like, almosts. Like, I felt like we almost got a Netta versus Ica showdown. If we almost got, the French Connection taking over. We almost got, like, it was just so many things where it was like, we almost got this, we almost got that. And it would, like, build up the anticipation, get everyone excited. And then it was like, oh, wait, now Netta's taken out, like, really quickly in a double eviction. Oh, wait, like, Dre and William are also taken out in the double eviction. Like, it was just like everything just didn't happen. And I was just getting so excited, and then let down. So excited, let down. So, I liked Big Brother Canada, and I felt like we had a good winner. Plus, we got Ica and Dimitri out of it. So that was huge because Ica, she was the queen of that show, and we wouldn't have had her otherwise. I mean, she was good in her first season, but she wasn't as iconic as she was this time. So it was great to see it. And I was looking back and I was like, wow, like Gary was on that show. And like I feel like all this stuff
was on that show.
On it way in the beginning. And then it was just like, we lost them so early. And I was so disappointed. And, for Big Brother 19, it was just like one disappointment after another, because it was like, we are really excited about the cast, and then Paul gets thrown in. And it's like, we're really excited about, Jess and Cody, maybe like Cody coming back in and then really doing something, and then they get kicked out one by one. It just felt like it was like, come on, everything was just a disappointment. But, and I mean, in terms of the Josh win, I think Paul should have won. I think that he deserved it. I mean, I didn't want him to win throughout the whole time. I wanted him to get out immediately, but like after all is said and done, he controlled the house. He didn't do it in a nice way or a way that any of us really liked, but he definitely controlled the house. And I'm kind of disappointed that it wasn't rewarded. But at the same time, I'm happy that his bad behavior wasn't rewarded, because everyone was saying, well, if Paul wins, this sort of gang up mentality is going to be a thing for the rest of Big Brother. And I was like, I can't deal with that. So good year overall.
Yes. I think it's probably unanimous among the three of us that Big Brother Canada 5 was, in fact, the superior season this year. And I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I think most people would agree. I think that Big Brother Canada 5, in many ways, was a really amazing season. Almost one of the best seasons of Big Brother Canada, to be honest. Like Big Brother Canada 2 is really good. And it's really the only one that I think even stands a chance against Big Brother Canada 5. Yeah. But I think that so many people were disappointed with the outcome that we kind of forget all of the greatness that was in that season.
It really was. I was going to say really quickly that, I hear your point, Melissa, about a season of almost. On the other hand, from my perspective, I felt like that the reason that they were almost was because other great players were nipping them off before they could make the move. Like Ica made a move against Netta in the double eviction because she felt like her power base was threatened and that Netta was going to come after her. She was right. Likewise with Karen making a move against the French Connection in the double eviction and switching her vote and basically outing Dre as the traitor that she was. I felt like Karen was usurping Dre's spot in the house as the decision maker, and that was some really fun gameplay from her. So I hear your point about some of the storylines being maybe truncated a little bit, but the drama that we got from the people that were there, even Dre's the night of Dre's eviction, obviously that whole night of her getting caught double dealing, and then all the way through till it really was the best. I mean, it was everything, and and she was there to play. That was the thing. Where as opposed to and that's the thing too about Big Brother Canada 5, Taran, is that I had people to root for and root against. Dre, I was not rooting for you. I loved you, but I was not rooting for you. I mean, it's kind of like the Alexis from Dynasty sort of mentality. Like, I love to hate you, sort of like Taran. I love to hate you, But I mean, you have to have people like that in the house. Whereas the problem with Big Brother 19 was I didn't know where to direct my anger. It was just like,
it was everywhere.
Anger at everybody. Yeah, because they were all so stupid for following Paul. And I couldn't get mad at any one person. At least in Big Brother Canada 5, when Netta was ruling the roost, I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get her out the minute she loses that immunity. There was something to root for. Whereas in Big Brother 19, I had nothing. There was no offensive play I felt like that anybody could make that would change the game, Taran, except for Josh cutting Paul at the end, which he didn't do, had the chance to do, and then was probably right not to do it. Oh my God.
No, that I totally agree. It was Big Brother Canada. It was like, no matter who got out, you still had people there who wanted to play and who you could root for. I felt like it changed all the time, but I definitely had people I could root for the entire time. Whereas Big Brother 19, I had like one or two people I could root for. And then they got evicted, and I was stuck with like the dregs. I felt it was like there was nobody left, and it was just like, all right, let's just get this over with because I don't care anymore.
You were like me. We're like, I'm like, are we rooting for Alex now?
I know. It like switched at one point. I'm like, wait, what is happening here? It's just like everyone was like, I had like one person I was liking, and then one person I was liking, and then one person I was liking, and I just felt. There was no driving force.
There was no through line. There was no coherent story except for Paul, and I was tired of that story.
Yeah, that's where it got old.
Sorry, Taran, I didn't even mean to interrupt you. Someone criticized me on Twitter recently about interrupting, that they don't like it when I interrupt because their BFF interrupted all the time, and she just let her do it, and so I'm like her, and I don't want to be like that. So, Katie, I hear you. Taran, go ahead.
Because you and Taran are BFFs.
Yeah, I mean, Brent wouldn't be Brent if he wasn't interrupting me. I mean, it's you
I try to
take
acknowledge it at least, and I yield back time. So there are times where I feel like I just have to jump in, especially early in the show. I usually calm down as we go along.
Yeah, we'll see how calm you stay. So yes, I think pretty consensus pick here. Big Brother Canada 5, the superior season. Big Brother 19, I don't dislike it as much as I think a lot of people did. I enjoyed watching Paul throughout the game, but it really is the kind of almost like one of the worst outcomes you can have in a season where you have somebody who's dominating the action and making a lot of things very calm and somewhat boring throughout the season. And then they don't even win in the end because they screw up on something dumb like jury management, which is like it's part of the game and it's important. But it's not fun to watch somebody screw up the jury management, right? Yeah,
I think my Periscope would beg to differ.
Well, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see them lose, but you would have been happier to see him lose if he was caught by Josh or something, right? Like that's even more fun, I imagine.
No, I think this is sweet. Well, I don't. Yeah, looking back on it. Maybe, but at the time, looking back on it, no, because if he had been cut, he would have been able to argue till the end of time that I would have won the game. They had to get me out. I was the biggest target. The fact that it happened as it did, like they actively said no to his face. I think Stephen Fishback has talked about the fact that, losing a jury vote from your peers, that's a big deal. It's basically people saying, you know what, we don't like you enough to give you the money. And so for him to actually have to take that from them, I felt like that was everything that I needed, Taran.
Well, it's funny because we actually kind of saw both scenarios play out where Ika going into the final two would not have won a jury vote, but she was cut shortly before the final two, and her reputation, for the most part, has been relatively untarnished. Whereas Paul going into the final two and losing, even though that's exactly what would have happened to Ika, it's like, whoa, you really screwed that up, Paul.
I think that's the key.
Yeah,
is get cut at 3. Like Netta, she got cut at 3, and everyone was like, she would have won for sure. She's the queen, da da da. And we never really know if she would have actually won. But of course, you know.
She would have.
So
I feel like she would. If she takes John, I feel like she doesn't. But if she makes the move and takes Sabrina, like I think she would have, then, you know, yeah.
Yeah. But still, it's like you want to like go out a winner rather than go out number 2. I don't know. I feel like you number 3, you're more of a winner than number 2. Plus, like you get the exit still. Because number 2, you just have to like sadly walk behind while all like the confetti is falling, you know? You don't even get like an interview or anything except for like Julie Chen like at the last minute being like, that sucked, didn't it? You know? And then
but you still get $50,000. By the way, Taran, did Netta, I can't remember in her interview with you on the Taran show, little plug there for you. Did she tell us who she was gonna take to the final 2? I can't remember.
She was going to take Sabrina.
She's going to take Sabrina.
But I think, I mean, something that she talked about was that she was actually like considering taking John a lot more than it was let on in the show. Like, she didn't want to have to betray him. But you know, when
she wanted her cake and eat it too. Like, I think maybe there's a part of her that thought, you know what, I played such a badass game. Like, I can take John and still win the game. But I don't think that's true because I think the jury wanted to see one of them cut the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Arlie said in the finale, like if either of them had taken the other one, we would have voted for the other one because you got to take Sabrina. Yeah. But yeah, it's really that it's the robbed goddess spot. You know, even if you're not a goddess, you're still the robbed something. So going out in 3rd or 4th, it's, you know, you come so close, you get to keep your reputation. So that's what we saw in Big Brother Canada 5. I think that it was a better season overall. But let's talk about the winners here, because we had 2 different winners, and I think many people will argue that neither one was particularly deserving, however you want to define deserving. But if we were going to talk about their games and sort of pick one over the other, where would you fall, Brent?
Well, obviously, Kevin is the superior player, and that's coming from me as a Josh fan. But I think Kevin has a lot more self-awareness of where he's at in the game at the time that it's being played, and I feel like he has a lot more honesty assessing his game after the fact about the things that he did right and the things that he did wrong. As much as I love Josh, there are things that are part of his story in his post-mortem of how he played that I'm sort of trying to, you know, it's like the kaleidoscope where you're just trying to squint to see, okay, I can kind of see that, you know, but, you know, and I love Josh the player. He's everything that I wanted in a Big Brother TV player, because remember, like I would say, Big Brother takes place on a television set. It doesn't take place in a studio where there are no cameras. So you want to have people who are engaging and fun. And Josh was in their face the whole time, gave them exactly what he wanted to give them. Says he was doing it on purpose. I think part of it was just his natural personality. But it worked for him in the end. But that doesn't mean that it was necessarily the right play. And I don't know that, I mean, let's remember, he won by 1 vote and played a really, really awful game. I don't know. I guess that says more about how badly Paul played the jury than it does about anything about Josh. But good on Josh for being aware to take Paul to the end, because a lot of us questioned that. Remember that we thought, you know, he needs to cut Paul. He needs to make the big move, and I do think he probably wins the game. But that's, see, in hindsight, that looks a little more iffy than what did happen, which was there were no way these 5 people were ever going to vote for Paul. So I feel like that was the sure bet, was taking Paul to the end. Although, you know, against this particular winner, the votes that Josh thought he had, Taran, Melissa, were not the votes that he ended up getting. I mean, you know, Julie's, it's 4-2, and Julie's reading Mark's vote, and Josh is already crying, like he's like, okay, girl, bye. I'll take my $50,000. I mean, I mean, c'est la vie. He's done. He thinks it's done. He has no idea that he's about to win Big Brother. Kevin Martin, on the other hand, I feel like always had an awareness of where he was in the game. I remember him and Bruno laughing at each other about how badly they were. You know, like, I mean, like, we're really, really effing terrible at this game, you know, and they're just like commiserating about it in a really, really fun way. And, you know, that immunity streak at the end, obviously, I have problems with the way Big Brother Canada basically telegraphs what's coming down the line. But he cracked the code. And until they fix that, which I feel like they're going to in Big Brother Canada 6, now that somebody's cracked it, you know, he managed to go on that immunity streak, challenge streak, whatever you want to say, and just keep himself immune for, the final 8? I think that they never had a chance to get him out after final 8. So good on him. Played a much more offensive game than Josh, and obviously, basically, swept the jury. Did he win? He won unanimously, didn't he? Or no?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember.
Every single vote.
I was thinking he got 1 vote, but apparently not. He was really 7-0 or 8-0, whatever.
Yeah. Kevin versus Karen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In my head, I'm thinking somebody voted for her, but I think it was me.
Yeah. That was you saying, no, guys, I swear, I think that Karen is going to beat Kevin in the final 2.
I think that's some alternate timeline here.
We had some really fun podcasts for BB Can. That was,
yes.
I think my favorite one was when it was like, for some reason we had to do it like late at night and we were arguing with the chat room about Karen.
Yes.
That was so funny.
Like I was in the UK and it was like 4 a.m. for me, and we were doing it at like it was ridiculous. And Brent like read out this whole statement about how he thought that Karen was gonna win the game, and then like he finally finishes this big dramatic speech, and then you and me just both start giggling.
Yeah.
I was really annoyed with you both.
There were some good podcasts. I had so much fun.
Yeah, Taran, between
which ones.
That one and the finale podcast when Kevin won, and you, Alex, and Melissa were like just high as a kite, and I'm in Disney World with a bad Wi-Fi trying to get my anger out, and I'm basically just like, well, you guys just want me to leave? I'll leave because I'm through with the 3 of you right now.
That was so
probably
fun.
One of the most controversial Brent episodes.
Yeah.
We've had.
That was crazy.
Like, no, I usually love Brent, but man, he really has it in for Kevin Martin. Oh my god.
People were so mad.
I was mad. It's it's very similar. I mean, well, not very similar. Obviously, Chrissy is a much better player, on paper and than Karen Singbell, but it's the same archetype. Losing, it's the same. That the older mom, they can't do the same things that a younger guy can do. And I felt like Chrissy. I'm going to spoil Survivor, sorry. But I feel like Chrissy on Survivor was not able to do the same things that a man is allowed to do. Like if she was a man and was doing those things, I feel like people would be like singing her praises. They've been begging to give her the money. And I also feel like the things that Ben did on his way to winning, like the Ben bombs and whatnot, Chrissy would never have been able to, nobody would have ever accepted that from her. So I feel like the women are treated differently. And like I said, on Big Brother Canada 5, I feel like that some of the things that were held against Karen, I felt like was specifically because she's a mom. She's a woman. I felt like that. And I remember even Melissa was a little indignant to my assessment of Karen, that was something that was holding her back. But I still feel like that if she was a man, that they would have given her a little more slack in how she played. The fact that she was like a mom and making those sort of backstabbing moves, I feel like they really, really had it in for
her. Karen or Chrissy?
What'd I say? Karen.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't think Karen made backstabbing moves.
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't think Karen did.
When she got rid of the fighter at 5, I forget his name or whatever.
Right, Dylan.
Yeah. I think she just was too loyal to Ika and Dimitri the whole time and didn't really do anything. And like it's one of those things where it's like a broken clock is right twice a day or whatever it is, where like she's like had all these predictions and she's like, this is what's gonna happen, like this is what's happening here. And of course, like maybe 1 or 2 of them came true and everyone was like, whoa, she knows the game. But really like she was just spouting out all this crazy stuff that ended up being right.
Yeah, like, well, I do agree with the sentiment about the mom archetype. I don't think Karen is the correct like test case because she really just wasn't a very good player, like in any sense of the word.
She's a really cool lady.
Back on Karen again. We like can't get over this topic.
She seems like a very cool lady. I think that she's wonderful. I think she's a very funny person. But
yeah, I've actually she's one of the few people I've stayed following on Twitter. Like I basically like unfollowed everyone else, not because I like hate them, but just because like it's not Big Brother season anymore. But her stuff is really funny, so I actually follow her still.
And by the way, if you guys have ever done a podcast with Karen, I love her to death because she has the camera like up above her, and thus it's like she's back on. It's like she's back on Big Brother Canada, where she's
on the
chair.
Spaceship. Yeah,
she's in the chair, like looking at the producers, like so great.
It looks like that. You're totally right.
Yes. So yeah, I mean we got Kevin, we got Josh. And a lot of people have been asking us, like, where would you place these two in your rankings, in your winner rankings? So I thought maybe we can try and place them here. We did so kind of preliminary placement when the seasons ended, but I've got the list up here of our previous winner rankings.
Oh my God!
Yes, we did it like a little over 2 years ago now. What's her name? Nicole. And Nicole is not on this list.
Okay.
So really, looking at Josh, placing him in the BBUS rankings, I think I initially said probably near the bottom 3-4 placements for him. Brent, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I would probably co-sign that. Can you tell me who my bottom 3 were, actually?
Your bottom 3 were Jordan, Dick, and Boogie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd probably
that's because you had Rachel higher than us.
Yeah, I have Rachel like at 3 or 4, something like that. And she deserves to be there. I just want to say. So I'd probably have Josh like right under Boogie. I feel like his currency in the game just wasn't what he thought it was, but he was helped less by twists than Dick was, and also he entertained me more than Jordan did. So I'm probably gonna put him like 3rd from the bottom.
Yes, and the consensus bottom 3 was in fact Jordan, Rachel, and Dick. I
don't know what you're talking about.
And this is for the record, anyone that didn't listen to that one, this is purely based on their capacity as a player, not on their. And even though Brent thinks that entertainment and that is sometimes combined, this is based on who do you drop them into a random season, who has the best chance to win that season. I think I probably have Josh probably just above those bottom 3 at number I'm not sure now at this point, 4th
16.
from the last. Yeah. I initially flirted with the idea of like maybe Jordan's a little bit better. I do feel like Jordan has more potential to make it further in a game. They both have this thing about them that people are going to want to take them further into the game because they're non-threatening, either because they think that they're a goat, or because it's just Jordan and she's so nice and she couldn't possibly be threatening. I do think that the twists in many ways helped Jordan a little bit more than Josh, but it's still sort of a tough choice for me there. I initially had Dick over Jordan, but in the last couple of years, I've actually been a little higher on Jordan. So it's a little bit of a toss up there. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's down there near the bottom, but I guess I'm starting to understand why those people are down below in terms of like not the way they actually played, but in terms of like their capacity as a player and like their ability to get along with people, I guess. Like, I guess that's where they kind of struggle, is like Dick and Rachel struggle with getting along with people. I mean, they're constantly hated. And then Josh, I think, struggles with getting along with people because he likes to pick random fights and then apologize for them afterwards. So I guess, yeah, I don't know why Dick and Rachel aren't that low, though. I think they're much better than that. But yeah, I think that Josh is down near the bottom.
Yeah. I talked to Josh on the Taran show. I think he's an awesome guy, actually.
Super guy.
There's been some drama on Twitter with some other Big Brother 19 people.
I'm just gonna be honest. I don't understand what that's about. Is there a way you can sum it up nicely for us, or is it too in the weeds?
Well, it's if anyone is interested, I mean, this is the end of the year wrap up here. We can talk a little drama.
We're here for the tea. Tell us the tea, Taran.
Well, Mark and Elena have been, they've been on Twitter.
Yes.
This information is coming largely from Reddit and some posts. I'm not
enough qualifying. Tell us what happened.
So basically, Mark and Elena have been on Twitter. They made a post about the holidays where they had a picture of themselves, and in the picture there was toilet paper with the faces of Paul and Josh on the toilet paper. And this is like one of a few different things that they have done against Josh and Paul. And also, like, they've posted his private texts to them, so being like, hey, can we talk? And they're like, you want to talk in private? Like, blah, blah, blah. So really just like really, you know, trying to go at Josh. And people have been kind of critical of Mark and Elena on Twitter because they've been seen to kind of be like asking for things like, hey, can I have tickets to this sold out show? Or like, hey, can you guys help us out with like plane tickets to go see each other? That kind of thing. So it's you can go to the Big Brother subreddit and find.
Okay, the Big Brother subreddit is where I need to go. So Josh got upset with that, correct? Because he blocked Mark on Twitter, I think, something. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean that's part of what Josh talked about in his interview with me, which is that like she's trying to not let that get to him, but he is a 23-year-old kid, and like it makes him angry, and sometimes he just wants to lash out, but he's trying to do his best to like be mature and not really lash out as much as he can. I think he did respond with one tweet, but for the most part, Josh has been doing pretty well at staying out of it.
Okay. I heard he responded with a tweet and then he deleted it, but of course, you know, nothing in Twitter is ever truly deleted because people capture stuff all the time. So
yeah.
Yes. But I will say real quickly, just as a general aside, I'm sure Melissa's probably with me on this. I feel like if you lean into the joke, it makes everything a lot better. Like, I'm not, you know, maybe this was an uncomfortable situation for him, but I feel like on balance, you know, having your face plastered on, you know, I get the joke about what the paper's used for. But I mean, like, you got to lean into that a little bit. Like, if that's the worst thing people can say about you, I mean, like, that's pretty funny. And like, I mean, people make fun of me all the time for the shit that I do. And you have to lean into the joke, you know. But then again, I am 42, almost 43. Taran, I'm almost 43 years old. And Josh is 23. So there, it makes it kind of tough.
Yes. And from all accounts, Matt and Raven still together, still going strong.
That is flippin' amazing. And Melissa,
and
I can't believe
they
that.
have not been embarrassing themselves on social media. Who would have guessed?
I'm stunned. I really am. Not embarrassing themselves on social media, and they are still together. And of course, I always expected Jessica and Cody to be together. And I love looking back on Big Brother 19 because me and Melissa were on the Cody bandwagon long before everybody else got aboard the Cody bandwagon.
Yeah, and if you look at our like cast assessment from before the season even started.
Yes.
We were into it.
She's like the Cheshire Cat with a smile. She's like, yeah. That was me.
I know how to pick them. I picked Dimitri's and I picked Cody, and they were both standouts. So
yes, there's also a Big Brother Canada drama now that we're talking about it. I guess this is the drama recap section of the podcast.
So what happened with it was Ika
and Bruno.
Yes.
Bruno unwittingly entered into this drama. He did an AMA on Reddit where he basically said something along the lines of like, yeah, Ika wouldn't have won if she made it to the final two. And he didn't think that she played super great. Something along those lines. And Ika really went hard for him on Twitter. And then, you know, Netta somehow got involved, I think. And, you know, this because of course. So, yeah, that happened. Ika versus Bruno versus Cindy versus Netta, and basically the entire Big Brother Canada alumni Ika is against, I think.
All of this is like my least favorite part of Big Brother. Well, this and like the psycho fandom. It's just like it makes me just hate everyone after the show. I feel like it's like a tradition. It's like after the show ends, you realize who they really are on Twitter or whatever, and their new social media persona. And it's like, oh yeah, this person who I loved, I hate this person now. Like, and then eventually they all seem to calm down and become normal people again. But like for a while, it's like you have to just like turn everybody off. I just remember when Zach Rance came out of the house and I was like in love with him, and I was like, he is amazing. He's so great. I can't wait to see him again on a show. And then it was like, he turned everybody off after that. They were like, who is this guy? This is not the guy we liked in the house. Because I think, well, not to go into a Zach thing, but I think in terms of like just a focus on this for a second. When Zach in the house, everybody liked the way he really was, like the way he was when he wasn't trying to say like, oh, Fruit Loop Dingus and da-da-da. They liked that he was like funny and entertaining and silly and but also sweet and had a good heart and genuine. He's like crying in the diary room. People are like, this guy, I hated him at first, and now like we've broken past this like horrible shell and he's actually a great guy. And then the second he comes out, he's like, oh, everyone likes the Fruit Loop Dingus thing. I'm going to stick with that. And he like closes back up this shell and becomes just like this like over the top, like, you know, caricature of himself. And it like, I feel like that's what people have been doing ever since they leave the house. They think that like whatever was shown on the show is what people liked rather than the stuff that people saw in the live feeds. And it's just is so disappointing.
Taran, I feel like I'm not really surprised about this, though, because these are the kind of people that get on reality television shows. Like the people who get into fights with people on Twitter are the kind of people who are going to get cast on a reality TV show. I remember the other day when I was, you know, sort of fighting with Joe from Survivor 35, and someone responded to me and said, you know, Brent, I thought you were above this. And then someone else responded, like, what has he ever done to show you that he would be above this? And I would have liked that tweet like 1,000 times. Like, I mean, like, come on, like, you know, like this is kind of who we are, you know, the kind of people that do this sort of thing. So I'm here for all of that when Ika's going after everybody. I mean, it gives me something to talk about. It's kind of fun, and you know, like, don't take it too seriously. And I feel like that I have a good perspective on all of that, but maybe some other people don't.
Yes, you know, you should not be surprised when Ika picks a fight with somebody or when Brent picks a fight with somebody. It's in their nature.
Yeah, don't subtweet me and then not expect me to call you out at Brent. What the hell? Seriously, he's that dumb.
Let's not further antagonize the Survivor players. But I did see some people talking more about. I just want to clarify about Bruno. He was asked a question, like he didn't go out of his way to throw shade or anything. He was asked a question in his AMA that was then somebody took a screenshot out of context and showed it to Ika, and you know, that's how these things go. So anyway, there's you know, drama. It lasts forever, and then by the time the next season starts, people will stop caring. So
I just wanted to ask you really quickly, can we talk like just big picture about like what both of these seasons meant? Because like I feel like looking back on this year and Big Brother Canada 5, I didn't know how Ika could top herself in Big Brother Canada 5 after what she did previously. But boy, I was wrong. And that combined with the fact that her partner in crime barely made it out of week 1 in a 7-6 vote. I had forgotten about that. I mean, it's just such an amazing season if you look at it through that lens, that the person with like probably the biggest target on her back, who nobody really took seriously in Ika, and the guy who barely made it out of a week 1 vote, 7-6 against another newbie, ended up being the king and queen of the season, even though they didn't win the game. I feel like that's just such great storytelling. This is where I would really agree with Arissa when she's talking about the season. I mean, it's just, you can't buy that sort of stuff. You can't buy that sort of drama. The stuff that happened in the double eviction to Netta, you can't write things like that. If you gave it to Hollywood and said, okay, the minute she loses immunity, she's going to be evicted, nobody would believe you. Like, I mean, how is that possible? And also, Taran, the reversal of fortune of Netta from going from, you know, robbed goddess to someone on Twitter who a lot of people don't really care for anymore, and who probably on balance has lost a lot of her popularity. I don't know that she could have done anything different given the way things played out, but she certainly, I feel like this is one instance where the car was going off the road and she took the wheel and went like that. Like she really made sure it went off the road. But that's my general assessment of Big Brother Canada 5. Big Brother 19, I feel like that it was gone the moment they cast Paul in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Big Brother Canada 5 was momentous in a lot of different ways, and
it really was.
It was almost the end of Big Brother Canada. It was almost the series finale, and you know, I think they could have done worse in terms of final seasons. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the story of Ika and Dimitri's, the story of Netta, and the downfall. And then Kevin, you know, breaking the game. there was a lot of really great storylines,
compelling stories. Yes, things that through they were, and they also, when Melissa and I were talking about our problems with Big Brother 19, we didn't know where to follow the story. The story was clear on Big Brother Canada 5 from the moment you entered that season about who was with who, and then when you saw their allegiances change, you understood why, and you were with them. Like, you knew that Ika had to make those tough votes against Cass, against Gary. Like we felt for her when she had to cast those votes, because we know that that's not what she wanted to have happen. She wanted to take Cass and Gary with her into the game, but she couldn't, and she had to vote against them for reasons, which were a strategy. But then to see her allegiances change in the double eviction, and to get the house behind her, to get Cindy to flip over. I
thought it was. Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was interesting how both seasons kind of started out in a similar way, where it's like they had a big giant group, and for Big Brother Canada, it was like they had this group, and then like the group split into factions, and then the factions like came at each other, and it was like so intricate and awesome.
Yes.
And then for Big Brother 19, it was like there was this huge group, and then the group just marched forward with Paul as the leader, picking off the outsiders, and then like the outside person of the group one by one until the end.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you get that storyline is so old. The storyline is so boring. It's not entertaining.
It's it's like Probst talks about in Survivor. Nobody ever wanted to make a big move. Nobody ever wanted to stand up to Paul. They even when they made Jury, I kept thinking like when Matt makes Jury, he's gonna do something. But he didn't, Taran. He was still the same guy that he always was, a scared player. If you guys ever get on one of these reality shows, you have to make me a promise, because this is what the promise I've always made to myself, that I would not be scared to go out during week 1. You have to play it that way. You cannot be scared to go out if you want to play a winning game, I feel like. I don't feel like there was never a point in time where I feel like Josh was scared. Like he was willing to go for the golden apple during week 1, because he wanted to make a move to save himself. You know what I mean?
I feel like all of his moves were made out of fear, I think. I don't think there were any of his moves that were like, I'm going to do this because this is the right move. Like, this is the move that's going to get me farther. It was like, oh my God, like, what do I do? Okay, like, I'm just going to get the apple. Like, I don't want to go out. Or like, I'm just going to go for this person because I don't want to fall or whatever. They are moves, but it's like.
It's a move made in fear, but it's an offensive move. Whereas the stuff that like Matt did there was nothing.
There was no move.
Right. There was no move. There was no there.
Yeah. And I think the most difficult thing to watch for Big Brother 19 was that even when people realized that Paul was in control and that Paul was like basically marching them all to their doom and like into the slaughterhouse, it's like they still didn't do anything. And it's like they were like, well, it's fine because Paul should win, or it's fine because, Paul's doing a good job, or like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to make it this far. It's like, so it was just so disappointing all around, because it was disappointing that no one was figuring it out. And then once people were figuring it out, it was disappointing that nobody cared. Like nobody cared.
Yeah, and I think like when we look at how the season started with the big groups, I think the main difference was that Big Brother Canada 5 had a bunch of good bold players, and Big Brother 19 had one good bold player. It was sort of like Big Brother Canada 5. It was like all of these experienced players using the new players as their pawns, and so it was like one big sloppy game of chess with a bunch of different sides. And then Kevin Martin like cheated with his superpowers. And then Big Brother 19 was like a kid playing with action figures. Like Paul was just like, oh yeah, go at each other, and then he'd be like, you're gone. And then at the end he like tripped over a rock or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did Josh ever admit afterwards, like, because I remember one of the most disappointing things at the end of Big Brother 19 was that in all the interviews, Josh was like, yeah, Paul and I were a duo. We were going all the way to the end together, and I had to stick with him. Like, look at us, da da da. And did he ever realize, like, did he ever come to his senses that, like, Paul was not in a duo with him? Like, Paul was out for himself, and it just so happened that Josh helped him in the end and that Paul kept him along. Like, they were never, like, this duo where they were, like, coming up with strategy together or anything like that. It was just Josh being strung along.
I feel like Josh's response to that, Taran, in listening to your interview with him, was more like, well, you know, Paul had to do what Paul had to do. He was a player, just like I was a player. I was thinking about my self-interest too. I mean, there's a little bit of whitewashing that happens with it. It's never acknowledged. And Taran, that's my problem with Big Brother 19 as a whole, is that it was the case for me of like, the ruined orgasm, you know, where you're like, you're about ready to have an orgasm and your mom walks in the room or something, like right at that moment, you know, that's what happened. Because stay with me here. I know you'll understand this. Okay.
Reaction to that.
This is the thing, because like every time we thought we were going to get something, we're going to get it out of Big Brother 19, then Paul would find a way to like, it would be ruined. Because he would somehow find a way to hide behind the shadow. Every time we thought he was going to get caught, he found a way to get people to cover for him. And then we never got off. We never got what we wanted from the show. Whereas in Big Brother Canada 5, you know, people are going at each other left and right. And there's no mystery in anybody's mind where everybody is. And so every week when somebody was eliminated, when Netta was eliminated,
there were just so many orgasms.
An orgasm every week.
Every week.
A bounty of orgasms in Big Brother Canada 5 because of like, you got what you wanted every time. Whether it was for you or against you. Every time Kevin won immunity or HOH, I was like, oh man, but it was, you know, but it gave me that, you know, like the bang that I needed. You know what I mean? Like where there was nothing during Big Brother 19. That's all. I feel like that's the best analogy here. I really do.
It was great.
Jorge in the chat took my example to another level, and this is perfect. He said Paul was Sid from Toy Story, and like that's just he just tortured his toys, and then they came alive at the end and you know, beat him.
What's frustrating is after the fact, everybody's like, well, you know, I knew he was controlling it all along. Like, I knew what was happening. I just, for my game, I wanted to make sure that I, like, did this or that. And it's like, you didn't know anything. Because if you did, there was ample time to say it in the diary room or in, like, to any camera. So you didn't know.
Taran, can we please throw shade on Elena and Paul? Because this is a question you got. I mean, it was tweeted to us. I'm sure you can tell me who was the person who tweeted it, but they wanted us to talk about the bullshit of Paul saying that he threw the final HOH part 3, that he threw part 3 to Josh, and number 2, the fact that Elena is trying to say after the fact that she would have nominated Paul if she got power once his immunity was up, when of course we have evidence of her talking with Jessica privately saying, you know what, if I win HOH next week, I'm going to have to put up Cody. And Jessica's like, well, just don't backdoor him. She's like, oh, I won't, I promise. Like, there was no, Elena, you were never, ever going to nominate Paul. Never. You were too flippin' scared. Okay? Yeah. Right? Are you with me, Taran?
Yeah.
The only good parts of Big Brother 19 in terms of, like, getting their comeuppance was, like, once people got out and then they were like, then you finally got like a realization from them, like Alex telling Jason, like, I really messed this up for us, or like, you know, Elena saying she should have done this or that, or like whatever. Right. You finally got people saying stuff like that, but it's like, that only makes you so happy. Like that only gets you so far into liking a season. Cause like, I like that happened, but like, did it make up for the fact that everything else was terrible? Like, no.
Did it make up for the fact that we watched bullshit for 13 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Like, not really.
Yeah, any single person on Big Brother 19 that claimed to be like, oh, I was the one that was on to Paul and was going to do something about it, every single one of them is lying. Cody is the only person that made a preemptive strike against Paul, and he did it really poorly. And then when he had another chance at it, he didn't do it the second time. So, like, there's not a single person on that cast that can say, I knew, because the only reason they ever found out was because Paul had already ostracized them. Elena eventually figured out, oh, Paul is running things. Well after Paul had eliminated her from the group. It was weeks later that she realized she was on the outs. And at that point, there was nothing that she could do about it. We talked about it. There was no scenario where Paul goes home, even if Elena wins HOH and tries to nominate him, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so, that was the worst part about that, you know, because the thing in our seasons that I feel like we need as fans is hope, you know, and I know it might be like 11-1 or 10-1 that somebody wins HOH, but it's a hope, Taran, that that the scenario might happen where somebody wins HOH and nominates the person we want out of the house. But Melissa, there was no way to get Paul out of the house, even if they did win HOH and nominate him. He was protected from all sides, and that's what was so frustrating.
Yeah, because even people who might have made a move, like maybe Jason would have, like, you know,
right.
That's about it. But maybe Jason would have made a move. Like the second he would have won HOH, Alex or Kevin or whoever would have convinced him not to do it. So even the people who like might have done it, they weren't strong enough in their own, you know.
Yeah. They had no conviction whatsoever.
So there was never any real hope. It was like the only hope is if Jason wins HOH and then somehow we isolate him from everybody else and get him to do. It's like there was no hope.
Yeah, we needed the Big Brother Canada thing where they take him in the diary room and make him not make nominations right away. Or you know what they could do? You know what they could do is a backwards week, because you guys remember how much I liked that, where they just backwards week on Big Brother Canada 5, where I ranted on Periscope and I was like, I remember I was coming home from the casino and I got lost. And I was so mad because my GPS took me like the long way, and I ended up like finding out what happened because I thought there was a chance that Cass was going to get saved, and then backwards week said no, we didn't mean that.
This podcast now is bringing up my inner turmoil from before. I was like fine and at peace with the season. I was at peace with all the Big Brothers for this year, and I was thinking back on it when we like talked about doing this. I was like, you know what, like this has been a pretty good year for Big Brother, and now I'm like, this was the worst year for Big Brother. Like everything is horrible. I hated this. Like
this is good,
you guys have
because
brought it all up.
If that's happening to you, then that means that's happening to the people who are listening to us, Taran. And I forgot about these things, but I went back and made notes about things that were irritating me throughout the season. And I feel like I've been sucking the kneecaps of Big Brother Canada a little bit too much. So I wanted to make sure I ding them a little bit with that whole backwards week and how stupid that was. I just want them to know that. Okay, moving on.
Well, I think really all Paul needed was to lose control was let the crowd boo leak into the house, and then we might have seen some disruption, because we did see that on one of these seasons. So let's talk about Kevin, because I feel like Kevin's win, we talked about it a little bit, sort of like how he broke the game and like how does that fit in. I still have trouble thinking about Kevin's win in comparison to anybody else's win, because it's just so different. And like when I'm thinking like, where does Kevin rank in the Big Brother Canada winners? I'm not sure, because I feel like in Big Brother Canada 5, he wins a vast majority of the time. And that's better than like any other Big Brother player. Like just like the fact that he can win out from final 8 on very consistently is insane, but it will only work once. And it was his second chance. So it's like how do you reconcile all of that and put it into one package and say this is where he is ranked? I'm not sure. I feel like as a single game, it's perhaps one of the best we've seen, because it's not conventional, but it's extremely effective. But in terms of the game of Big Brother, I think it's not quite as effective. So it's hard for me to rank him. I think I would ultimately have him in second, but it's a tough spot. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I think his win was really impressive. I think that everyone was against him as it got down to it. And I always, I always root for the underdog, especially if they seem to know what they're doing and they actually like, it's not just them, being the one person left to root for. He actually was rootable throughout. It just was kind of overshadowed by a lot of other people. So, I mean, I was totally impressed by what he was doing. And I think that he played it right. I mean, by the end, at least, he had won all of those various competitions, and it was just really impressive to see how he did it. I don't know. I liked it. I was satisfied with his win.
I'd have to co-sign that. It depends on how much weight you put into all of these wins, because he certainly he wasn't moving hearts and minds within the game. I mean, he wasn't going to get anybody else to take him to the end. I have to say that I was really impressed by it, looking back on it now that we have some distance. It sums up what a lot of people were saying about how Chrissy wasn't getting the respect that she deserved on Survivor, as opposed to, like, say, Mike Holloway when he's winning challenges. The difference being that, for the most part, Chrissy's back wasn't up against the wall when she won those immunities, whereas Mike Holloway, his back was against the wall. Likewise here with Kevin, his back was against the wall, from Final 8 on, and every time, over and over and over again, he got himself out of trouble. He was just too good. It's like a poker hand where somebody flips over a full house after you have a straight, and you're like, man, that's just too good. There's nothing I can do against that. So I think I would probably have to rank him pretty high. I don't think I could put him in the top 3, but I'd have him like 4 or 5. I mean, I'd have him pretty high in my rankings just because of that one game. I mean, I'm gonna stick with what I said. That one game is just so impressive to me that I think it has to be acknowledged.
Yeah, it's again, it's a weird thing because if we're looking at it in the way that we structured the winner rankings, right? Like if you drop them in a random season, what are their chances of winning? I feel like he doesn't perform super well. I think that he is a capable, self-aware player, but as you mentioned, Brent, like he wasn't getting to the end without those competition wins. So that needs to be a factor. Like he needs to have that setup that he utilized to get to the end. But he did have that setup, and he did break that game, and so
and
like
it's also specific to Big Brother Canada, because if he's on Big Brother US, there's a point in time where you have to play the game. The Big Brother or Big Brother Big Brother US, the final HOH challenge. There's a point in time where it's not that you can't prepare for that. Even you could be the best challenge beast on the planet, like Paul is, and you could still lose the game. But Paul still found a way to get Josh to take him to the end. Whereas Kevin really never had to face that demon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's sort of it's like in a video game or something, when somebody is like the champion of a patched out version of the game, where it's like they're not the best anymore, but they were the best before this exploit got patched. So like you want to remember them and honor what they did, but when you're ranking them in terms of the actual game that's being played, you can't really take that into account. So like extremely impressive what Kevin Knight was able to do. In his interview with me, he talked about just like, and this is 100% true, like if he goes into like the majority of those competitions against Dimitri, he's going to win them. Like if he played them 100 times, he'll win them 99 out of 100 times. Like he's always going to win them. He was just so much more prepared. But again, that wouldn't have worked on Big Brother US. He only wins that final 3 competition in Big Brother US, like 1 out of 2 times. Maybe you can improve your odds slightly, like maybe 2 out of 5 times or something, or 3 out of 5 times, whatever it is. But yeah, so ultimately in the Big Brother Canada rankings, he doesn't have a lot of tough competition. So I would put him second to John there. But in the Big Brother US rankings, I think he does kind of fall down a bit, just because he can't compete in the Big Brother US season. So it's not really a fair comparison.
Yeah, it's not a fair comparison.
But yeah, but in terms of like impressive wins, I do think he's up there with some of the best of them. Like not in terms of ranking him as a player, but in terms of ranking his game. I think that it's one of the more impressive games that we've seen.
He talked about the improvements that he made. Do we think that he made improvements over the flaws that he said that he had during Big Brother Canada 3? Because he acknowledged when he was assessing his game from 3, his inability to convince Sarah that he was in her corner, and she saw through that. And he also was a little bit cold fish to some people when talking strategy. They felt like that he was always up to something. I don't really know if well, how much success did he have trying to change that game, do you think, Taran?
I do think he had some success. I think that, when we look at William using the veto on Kevin, I think that was huge for him, and it's ultimately what saved him.
I forgot about that.
But he did have some difficulty convincing William that he was on his side, but when it came down to it, he did get the veto used on him. And Bruno ultimately essentially like goes out working for Kevin, and everybody loves him in the jury house. So he had those relationships, and he was doing pretty well. We have to remember that like if the Netta thing doesn't happen in the double eviction, then the entire game is different, and Kevin isn't put on the outs like that. And who knows what he could have done from there.
Yeah, of course he has to compete against Netta though in those challenges. If and I feel like she's not going to let him go, 8-0 or whatever the hell he went. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that Netta probably competes better, but again, like just his amount of preparation, I don't think anybody could have beaten Kevin in the majority of those competitions down from the final 8. So, you know, it's a tricky spot to rate Kevin, but it's again, Big Brother Canada 5, very interesting outcome. Like, regardless, it was a very entertaining journey with an awesome, interesting outcome.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the season.
I remember I did a Periscope, Melissa, where I was like, you know, after they removed Dylan from the house, actually, we were, me, Taran, and the other friends from our podcast house were there at this taping when Dylan was evicted at Final 5. And I went back on Periscope the next day and was like, you know, whoever wins of this Final 4, like, I'm totally cool with that. You know, like Kevin or Karen. And I felt like that was the most likely final 2 at that point. But also Ika and Dimitri's. I mean, like, you know, I would have been thrilled with any one of those people. Whereas, you know, I can't say the same of Big Brother 19 necessarily.
Yeah.
The one person I was rooting for was Josh, and he ended up winning by this hair of his chinny chin chin.
Yes. So let's talk about some of the other notable players from these 2 seasons. I would say best, but there's really, when I thought about who are the best players, you know, from Big Brother 19, all right, there's Paul. And even he wasn't that great. Big Brother Canada 5.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of great players in Big Brother. Oh, but they all did really poorly, didn't they? All right. So yeah, tough to pick the best players, but I do think ultimately Paul is a standout. Obviously Kevin in his own right, and then a third player that I sort of thought of, like, who else is standing out to me. I do think Dimitri, despite the fact that he had to rely on some competitions and he almost was evicted week 1. I do think that in terms of the new players, he really was a standout. He did have a decent social game. He was very good at the competitions. If Kevin wasn't there, then Dimitri dominates, I think, a vast majority of those competitions.
I mean, he's the kind of person that you just want to keep around, right, Melissa? I mean, he's so chill. I mean, he's
the fact
so
that
sweet.
Able to have a good social game while connected at the hip with Ika. Like,
well, that's the thing.
He's got a great social game.
I think a lot of the weaknesses in his game can be attributed to the fact that he was connected to Ika. And if he hadn't been, I think he wouldn't have been in as much trouble as he was and wouldn't have needed to win as many competitions as he did. That said, Ika also saved him week 1. So maybe he would have been evicted week 1 without Ika. So it's kind of a give and take. But I do think if he had been evicted week 1, it would have been a little bit of a fluke. I think he has a lot of potential as a player, more so than probably any other new player on that season. You know, you might say William had some potential that was snuffed out, but it's very much like Big Brother 19, where it's like maybe they could have done something, but they couldn't. And
my problem was, you know what my problem was with William? My problem with William was that he was with Kevin and he saved him because he was thirsty. And I just wish he would have come out and said that. You know what, Taran, if I went on a show and there was somebody like Cody there and I became besties with him, like in a bromance or something, and he was like, his butt was on the line and I had the veto, I'd put the thing around his neck and say, you know what, I just think you're hot and that's why I saved you. And William would not do that.
He should have saved both Kevin and Bruno. That was the move.
Yeah, that's what he should have done. Right. God, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, and speaking of Cody, I think Cody is a standout, and so is Jess, and especially Cody, because I think that he's such an anomaly for a Big Brother casting, and I think that we were all pretty surprised that he was cast in the first place. But now that people ended up loving him, and he was such like he got America's favorite. I hope that Big Brother will learn from that and be like, okay, we can cast some not, you know, social media moguls. Star people, like, you know, social media moguls. Like, we can just cast people who don't necessarily want the limelight and aren't super outrageous and like, I'm in your face. Like, you know, hopefully that will start getting a new crop of Big Brother people, because we've been really going in the other direction, unfortunately.
Yeah, I will say, Taran, like, aside from his body, which is to die for, Cody's a pretty normal guy. Like, he's got like normal friends and like lives in a normal town and comes with like, you know, like problems with the previous relationship, and you know, like he's a single dad, and I mean, like, you know,
he had his quirks.
He's like everybody. I mean, he's got quirks. Yes. I remember the time in Big Brother 19 where I was already on the Cody train with Jessica, and y'all were off doing something. Not Melissa, not Melissa, but everybody else. All you people out there. And then the night of the fight, when we were getting ready to do an LFC show, when that fight was going down with Raven in the backyard.
Oh, that was crazy because we had to postpone the show. We were like, that was a fun one.
That
we
was
were all like riled up. We were like, what is going on?
We were in the hangout, like watching the fighting go on and like making the occasional comment, like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, it always seemed all the fights seemed to happen right before our roundtable on Mondays.
Yes, but that was the point in time where, like, if you were not previously on the Cody and Jessica bandwagon, you quickly got aboard. Now I know there's some people who are like, "I'm never gonna board that." He's whatever. But I mean, like most people, the majority of fans who think rationally like me, were on the Cody and Jessica bandwagon after that point, and you know, it was nice to know that I was right all along.
Yes, exactly.
That I like Brent's definition of rationality. I do agree. Actually, I think that Cody was, you know, he had his problems for sure. I would be the first person to point them out. I don't think he was a very good player either, but I think he was the best casting that Big Brother had all year. If you don't count the vets from Big Brother Canada, since they had already been previously cast on other seasons, the new players for sure, he beats out all of them. And on Big Brother 19, I think he's a standout. I think that he's different. He was entertaining in a different way, and I completely agree, Melissa. I hope that they continue with that trend. Someone else in the chat pointed out it's kind of like Lauren on Survivor, and I agree. Like these more low-key, normal people, they can be entertaining. That was what you started with. That was the origin of Survivor and Big Brother, was that you had normal people to contrast the crazy people. And that makes for much better television, and it makes for much more interesting character study and all of that. So I completely agree. I hope that they learn something from Cody, and I hope that they don't just go for like somebody who's now a caricature of Cody who,
God, yeah, that'd be so annoying.
Yeah.
They just need more normal people. And I feel like I just remember like talking last year about like, what are they going to learn from this year's crop of Big Brother, you know, seasons? And we were like, well, we just had OTT. So now they might take some of this OTT stuff and put it in to the new season. Like, what about the live diary rooms, or what about, you know, this or that? And they didn't take any of it. So it's really like, we're just going to lose all of it. Like, we're going to be talking and like, oh, maybe they'll learn. They will not learn. They will never learn. I
remember last year when we did our end of the year podcast, we talked about like, what were some of the things from OTT that we would like to see carried over? And basically all of the things that we wanted went away. And in some cases we got like worse, like less of it. And then all of like the bad things that we hated, we got even more like twists throughout the game, like care packages and all of that stuff.
God,
even Survivor,
get rid of those stupid care packages.
Even Survivor ended up taking the Final Four twist from Big Brother OTT. Like all of the worst parts of Big Brother OTT somehow survived and infected all of the other seasons, and none of the good parts, none of them. So
yeah, I really hate the idea of these care package things. And like, I mean, I could go with those care package things if it wasn't like, okay, you give it to them and then next week all the next weeks they're ineligible, because that was creating a problem because we didn't know who we liked in the beginning. Like we didn't know. And then as it went on, we were like, oh shoot, I don't want to give it to any of these people. I want to give it back to these people.
Right.
And
yeah, looking back on that,
do it.
That temptation twist that we gave to Christmas, like if we could undo that, I mean, like,
yeah, like I would have undone that in a heartbeat, but we didn't know at the time. We thought we liked her.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm fine with that if they want to keep it going forward. And I think the reason why they did it that way is because they wanted to negate the possibility that you know, a Big Brother 15 thing happens again, where Alyssa just keeps getting it over and over again. But the way you do that is you don't cast people who we already know, already have a built-in fan base, and then you don't have to worry about that anymore. So, you know, whatever.
Yes,
yeah, it was a little rigged there with the whole like, let's bring Paul back and let's make sure we give $25,000, the biggest prize they've ever given out aside from like the runner-up to get Paul into the house. Oh, then by the way, there is a twist which gives immunity, and y'all get to vote on it, and it's Paul and 16 people who you don't know who the hell they are, and now you got to vote. Yeah, I mean, just stop insulting our intelligence, okay? Just stop. Like, if you want to give Paul immunity, just give him immunity. Don't
like, just do it. Don't make us do it for you.
Stop that bullshit. That was ridiculous.
Don't make us complicit.
Yeah, like, seriously, they make us complicit in their terrible plans.
I wanted to, while we're talking about this, I wanted to quickly touch on a tweet from our friend of the podcast, Colin Stone. I weighed in on it. Taran, I don't know if you did or not, or what your thoughts were on this, but I'd like to hear Melissa's thoughts too. Colin said that between Survivor Game Changers, Big Brother 19, and now Survivor HHH with this Final Four bullshit twist, was this the weakest season, the weakest year of CBS television programming as far as reality competitions go ever? Like, with Taran, I know you saw this tweet, so what did you think of that? Because I agreed with it, because while there were some elements from a few shows that I liked, I felt like so many of these seasons had so much stink on them, between the Paul bring back and Game Changers with all the immunities that eliminated Suri, and she didn't even have a vote against her. It was like Advantage Armageddon. And then this Final Four bullshit twist on Survivor, right out of BBOTT, where, Chrissy beats Ben in the final immunity challenge. She thinks she's got him out of the game, and then the game says, no, well, we're gonna give him another chance now, which has never been done before. So do you feel like that this is the worst ever year for CBS?
It's hard to say, because I don't remember other years in particular. I do think that last year was probably a better year as a whole. I think we had like Millennials versus Gen X in that year, which by itself, I think, probably overtakes all of the seasons this year, in my book at least. But I enjoyed Heroes versus Hustlers. The ending was certainly a bad one, but I loved the journey. And I would have preferred to see a Devin or Chrissy win, for sure. But if that had happened, then I would have picked them in the draft. So it would. But yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily, like, it wasn't all bad for me. I enjoyed Big Brother Canada 5 a lot. I enjoyed Heroes, Healers, Hustlers a lot. Game Changers was kind of weird, but I enjoyed it as a whole. It wasn't like Nicaragua or anything. So even Big Brother 19, like there was a lot to enjoy for me. I liked watching Paul do his work, even though a lot of people didn't. And then, so yeah, I don't think I'd agree that it's the worst. Maybe in terms of like the direction that these shows are going, in terms of introducing more and more twists and more returning player versus new player kind of situations, that's a disturbing trend for sure. But I enjoyed my year of CBS reality.
Okay. Melissa?
I'm not exactly sure, because I don't even remember Game Changers. So I guess maybe that is telling.
I guess that's the biggest indictment of all, when you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all. But yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, so I do not know the answer to this question.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that. I know that there's a couple people who said like the South Pacific year. I think I also had One World, or maybe I'm mixing the two up. But those are pretty bad seasons as well. I don't know. I feel like that there's a lot of stink on these CBS shows, and the reason that they have so much stink for me is the twists. And I'm not, look, I come from the school of twists, so I'm with you if you want to throw some twists into the game occasionally, but don't alter the fundamentals of the game. Yeah. Like, don't throw in one person. Like, I remember the producer of the show, I forget her name, it's the Big Brother, whoever, the gal, you know what I'm talking about, said that putting Paul into the game, putting one person into the game, shouldn't really affect how the game was going to be played. And of course, I'm glad somebody held her feet to the fire and asked her to reevaluate that. And then her and Rich Meehan were like, that was probably like a one-off thing. Like, that wouldn't happen again, which I'm like, don't try it again.
Yeah,
don't do it again.
It's happened both times that you've tried it, so
right?
Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so when you put Jason in the BBOTT house, he made it to be.
Well, yeah, 3 times actually. Now that you mention it, Jesse, Jason, and Paul. Yes. Any other standout characters that Kevin, I think, was Kevin from Big Brother 19 was a great addition to the Big Brother cast, I think. And Karen was fantastic. But yeah, apart from that, there really weren't there was no standout player. There were only a couple of standout characters.
I will say that I feel like Alex Au from Big Brother 19, I feel like that she is at least in the conversation. I know that she made some bonehead moves during the game. I know she said those things that I still look back in amazement when her saying, friendship, he would never go against friendship. That's his mantra. But she's so feisty. She's feisty. She's not going to hide. She's a comp challenge beast. And
she's having flashbacks.
I'm literally having flashbacks.
Well, I just feel like that Alex is somebody that is just somebody we don't see a lot on television. I like that. So I feel like she's at least in the conversation. So there you go.
Yeah,
honestly, if she had just picked a different allegiance, I could have been in love with her. So
you wanted to like her. I
wanted to desperately.
Yes.
And I wanted to like Christmas so much.
Yeah, we both did. We both wanted to love her. I wanted to love her so much when she went HOH during week 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And she's like, I got a plan. And we're like,
I was like, she's got a plan. This is it, guys. She's
got a plan.
Nope. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, in terms of conversation topics, can we also talk about the funniest moments from each from the seasons? Because I already know my funniest moments. One funny moment, my funny moment from Big Brother Canada is when Karen was super hungover and walked outside into the hot tub room and threw up. And it was just in the middle. She was talking, and then she's like, "What?" That was hilarious. And then my moment from Big Brother 19, I have 2. One, obviously, is Cody saying, "Hold that thought."
Oh,
and
yes.
2 is when Kevin thought that Kevin smelled Christmas's butt. Do you guys remember that? When she leaned over and then he was helping her and she goes, "Hey," and nothing happened. Then afterwards he goes over to Jason and he's like, "I think she thinks I was sniffing her butt." But I can't now go back to her and be like, "I wasn't sniffing her butt," in case she wasn't thinking that. That was so funny. I've watched that since. It's that funny.
I think that my funniest moment from Big Brother 19 would have to be rap-centric, when our very own Rob Sesternino is talking to Raven Walton, and he's like, there's just so many parties for you. I think you're really going to be impressed, amazed at all the parties that have been happening on your behalf. And then he asked her the thing about the Kool-Aid. And I've never laughed so hard in my life. He's like, "We have a question from a viewer. What flavor of Kool-Aid that Paul made did you like the best?" And she answered it as if, it didn't phase her whatsoever. She totally lied.
Cherry.
Yeah, cherry. Even though he never made cherry Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's the thing. It shows how quickly she can just lie on the spot and not even question it. Because it wasn't even "Oh, did he make Kool-Aid? I don't remember. I think I might have." It wasn't even anything like that. It was literally cherry, when he didn't even make Kool-Aid once. Yeah. It was bizarre.
It was great. And that was Rob said that was the closest thing he's ever had to something going semi-viral, was when people kept retweeting that moment with him, with Raven in the backyard. So I have to say that was probably the funniest. And also our finale podcast on Big Brother Canada 5. It was just such a shit show. Because I was so bad. I was just looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I was in rare form those 2 nights.
I really enjoyed the. I always love the recap of the recaps. But I really enjoyed the whole Hyman situation.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
With Eric Stein was on the podcast. I just Googled RHAP Hyman and it came right up. But yes, Jessica not knowing what a hymen was, that was fantastic. But I really, really loved the veto ceremony where Ika says to Kevin, "You can take that veto and shove it up your ass." And he goes, "Ika, I'm using the veto on you."
I was crazy. I forgot about that.
That was the most amazing moment. Yes, because we're like, yes.
That was so crazy. And she's like,
and then also like she has to be like, also we kind of trashed your HOH room.
yeah.
And they had to take it all down. Like they
That
had
was
to
really
take it off.
like all
Oh my
somber, like
God. That was so funny.
there were a lot of great Big Brother Canada 5 moments. I really
liked-
love
Oh, go ahead.
Kevin messing with Karen. Like, hey, Karen, what? Tell him
Oh,
about your
yeah.
final 2 deal. What?
He was
Is that
so
Kevin
mad.
Martin?
Yeah, Rob got so much mileage out of like his impersonation of Karen and like how incredulous she was at Kevin. I mean, like that was great stuff.
I also like when Gary told Netta, like, honey, you don't know who's the villain until you see the edit or whatever.
Oh yes,
that was
yes.
really great.
That was really
like,
good.
I don't think she had any idea that was what was going on, and he was just like totally called her on it. It was amazing.
Yeah, I like that was certainly a contributor toward this narrative that Netta is like the villain, which I wasn't like a huge fan of, but that moment was so well edited. Like that, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why they stuck with that storyline is just because they were able to edit it together so well. I mean, when it's Cassandra versus Netta and Gary versus Netta, like they are 2 people who are really great at like forming a narrative and like putting people, and then of course Aika, like those are all people that are like going to give you really great like put downs if they're the heroes. So
it's so
it brought
funny.
a lot of great moments.
I don't know. You know, it must have been really hard for Netta because she went into the house. She knew she was really popular. She got voted most popular, basically, by the public when they gave her immunity for however long. And then she's getting into fights with people who are also popular. But she's probably saying to herself, you know what? These people are against me. You know, I know they're popular and they have followings, but I have to get rid of them because they're coming after me the minute, or they're coming after my allies at least. And yet it didn't, like, it to the public, it didn't play that way because we're not looking at the game through her eyes. We're looking at the game through our eyes. And to us, it looks like, you know, she's sitting pretty over there with immunity, and yet she's still, you know, making moves against our favorites. We're like,
I'm picking fights and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Picking fights.
And
the mean girl
really,
attitude, yes.
Well, that's what I think this was like one of the most obvious or like biggest cases of the edit really like framing things, like the way that they framed her interaction with Cindy, where they made that like insult corner out to be way more than it was, and like the way that everything around Netta being the villain, like it was very effective. Like I mean, like not to say that Netta wasn't complicit in that thing, like they can't make things happen that didn't exist for sure, but like they made Netta, who I think was for the most part the same person. Like I think that she was in different circumstances and she was with some different people, but for the most part she was the same person, and they took her from like most popular Big Brother Canada house guest to everyone is rooting against her over the course of a few weeks based on mostly editing. And that's crazy to me. It really goes to show the power of what they present, because even the people watching the live feeds are influenced by the edit that the show gives them. So that was a very interesting aspect of it for me.
Yeah, I hated the fact that they were like running that into the ground. It's like, okay, we get it. She's your villain. Okay, like that's enough. You don't have to keep drilling it into people. But you know, so that I didn't like that at all, because they chose to show the parts where Netta was a villain, whereas if they had shown other parts of Aika, she would have been the villain. So it's just interesting
like
that
Aika legitimately made people cry multiple times, whereas like, Netta accidentally made someone cry once. And
but you know what? She did it with flair, though. I feel like that's why we can forgive her, because she does it with a certain panache that, you know, you just like, you understand why she's irritated and you're sort of here for it. Whereas I feel like with Netta's eye rolls, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to pick on her, but I never felt anything for her in that season.
But that's the thing, like the eye rolls were amazing in season 2. People loved them. She was like the sassy, like underdog. Right. Like it really comes down to context, I think. And Big Brother controls the context. And that's unfortunately like what you sign up for when you go on that show. This might be a controversial moment, but I loved the way that Big Brother US put together the montage of Paul getting everyone to throw the sprinting HOH competition.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were frustrated by it, but just like it felt like a heist movie, the way that they put it together, where it was like, this person is dropping out because Paul did this, who connects it to this, and like, you need to do this in order for this person to feel comfortable doing this, and then that will make this person feel comfortable doing this. And I just loved the way that was put together. It felt like a montage straight out of the Sting or something. Like I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Excellent.
But my favorite moment of the whole year though was once Jason puts up it was Matt, right? Matt first. He puts Matt up, and Matt freaks out, and he starts going, what are you gonna do? What are you doing? Come on,
I love it. It was the only time that I've ever podcasted with Taran that he did an impression, and he did a good one too. Like, he was really good at the Matt impression.
Oh God.
Oh, I loved it.
I just remember we were like desperate for Matt to finally wake up and like do something. And then the second he did that, we were all like, okay, we don't go back to sleep. We don't want this. This is not what we wanted. It was just so bad. It was like so embarrassing.
You little punk. Be a man. It was very strange. And
very strange.
It's not often that I'm watching the feeds and just like cracking up because it's just so funny. And that was really a moment. So yeah, that's those are some of the moments that I remembered from the show. But there is one thing that that we should talk about. Big Brother news over the course of the year. We finally, it's been a long time, and we hadn't had a death in the Big Brother family for a very long time. But unfortunately, we recently lost Kent Blackwelder from season 2. That we, Rob and I actually just recently spent months rewatching season 2 and podcasting about it. And we talked about Kent a lot. And, he was certainly a flawed guy. With some, some uncomfortable and unfortunate views, but very sad to see him go here. And he was still pretty young, and it's hats off to Kent here.
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly, his friendship with Bunky certainly evolved over the years, much later after they left the house. And I thought that was, a place where people found common ground together. At the time that Big Brother Big Brother 2 was taping, Kent and Bunky in the house, their beliefs did not align. But as Bunky wrote on Twitter, eventually as time moved on and they became friends, Kent came a lot further over the bridge toward Bunky than Bunky came toward him, and that shows progress. I don't think that Kent was any different than my parents were in 2001, 2002, that time frame. So I feel like that he represented a large, but not maybe a majority of America who maybe didn't understand gay people and thought different things about them and had different opinions about other things. And I feel like that he did a lot of growing after the show, and we can applaud that. And I also applaud his time on Big Brother 2, I thought was very, very fun. He was like the strategist that everybody was sort of afraid of and wanted to get rid of for that reason. I feel like that's something that we don't see very often. The older guy who sort of puts the fear of God into everybody.
Yeah, one of the first things I thought of when I heard the news was that during when we were making the Big Brother 2 documentary, I was going through the archives of David Bloomberg's website that was writing articles about the season, and they had Kent come on and write a guest article, whatever you want to call it, after 9/11 had happened, because there was a lot of controversy about, like, should they tell them, should we cancel the show? And he wrote a very moving piece about, like, the importance of TV and of Big Brother, and that we shouldn't be canceling the show. Like, this is something important for people, and he was a good guy, and it's unfortunate that we've lost him, and hopefully this is not a something that will happen more in the future, and we'll go another long stretch of time before we have to talk about another death in the family. But we can move on. move forward.
Please tell me you have something else so we don't have to end on that.
Yes. Well, I did want to say, yes. Well, I did want to say, while the seasons weren't necessarily the best this year, the coverage was some of my favorites by far.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, stop real quick. Can I give you some props? Like, y'all out there, me and Melissa join with everybody in bowing down to Taran Armstrong for the amount of time and effort that he put into covering Big Brother 19. I mean, Rob thought about doing this, the daily updates, as a thing. And we were sort of kicking it around, wasn't really sure how it was going to work. I knew I didn't want to do it full time, and I made that known. And I really feel like in the end, Taran just sort of picked up the slack like he always does when there's a hole to be filled. And Rob wanted to do daily updates, and Taran, you never missed a day. So kudos to you. We applaud you. Everybody in the chat room applauds you. And we can't wait for you to continue to do all the hard work so I can rest easy during Celebrity Big Brother.
Exactly.
Yes, well, thank you. It really was a lot of fun for me. Like, the Big Brother 19, it was not the most fun season. I certainly enjoyed it to some extent. But what I really, really loved was being able to wake up every morning and just talk about it every day, and have people to talk about it with that were every day it was like, what could possibly maybe go wrong with Paul today? Probably not much, but we're still trudging on.
You did. And you know what? Your podcast, I can't remember who you did it with. Maybe you can help me out. It was you, Rob Cesternino, and who? Because somebody just tweeted us about it, who did the preview of what Paul versus Josh would look like in the final two, like a day or two before it happened, right? Was it Ligori? Or somebody was with the two of you? I can't remember who.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, I'm sorry. I should remember because somebody tweeted it to me. But whoever that was a great show. Honestly, if you listen to that show, it's like they're predicting the future. I mean, they really had it locked down about what was going to happen. What Paul, like Rob was like, if Paul loses the game, this is the reason why, and it all came to pass. It was really an amazing podcast.
Yeah, it really was a lot of fun, and like between those updates and the shows and getting together with you guys, I really enjoyed that coverage. I'm very much looking forward to covering more stuff in the future. Speaking of, we've got Big Brother Celebrity coming up soon in February. February, what is it, 14th or something? I don't know, 11th maybe. We don't know the cast yet. There have been some rumors. One of the more frequent names I've seen thrown around is none other than Frankie Grande, maybe in our Big Brother Celebrity cast. Brent, what do you think of that?
I mean, I wouldn't be too disappointed by it. I know a lot of people are not here for Frankie, but he gives us something to talk about. He's going to play hard. That was the one thing I'll give him about his stint on Big Brother 16. Bitch played hard. I mean, he really did. He wanted it badly, wanted to win, didn't rest on his laurels whatsoever. I mean, I know he does annoy people, but I feel like on a celebrity season, he's going to be a celebrity season, air quotes. He's going to be amongst his friends, his peers. So maybe he won't annoy us as much then. Look, I feel like you just need to accept it, that he's going to come back at some point. And then when it does happen, then you're not as bent out of shape by it, like some of y'all are going to be.
Well, here's the thing. If you are not a Frankie fan, you can take this as a good thing, because if Frankie does Celebrity Big Brother, he's almost certainly not going to then turn around and do another season of regular Big Brother. So if you don't like Frankie, then this is sort of like you take a small evil instead of a potential big evil. You'll only have to deal with them for 3 weeks tops, and then you're done probably. Just saying.
Yeah. I used to be so anti-Frankie, but I don't really mind him coming back. When I didn't hate him in the first half of his season, I thought he was really entertaining. And yeah, he took up a lot of airspace, but like he was funny, I thought, until I realized that like his jokes and stuff were all just constantly on a loop and like repeated the entire time. And his impressions were just over and over and over. But in the beginning, I thought he was really funny. I loved watching the feeds when he was on it. He made it fun. And he was playing really hard, and he like cared about the game. Obviously, the second half of the game, I had a very, very different opinion on him. But you know, now that we've had like a break in between, maybe he'll come in with all new jokes, all new material, all new impressions, and you know, maybe redeem himself. Who knows?
God,
I mean,
you
2
imagine if he had
weeks
the
you
same
can't get that
impressions?
sick. Oh my God. Like, I used to think that his impressions were so funny. Like when he did that one where he was like, "Oh, I'm a drunk girl getting home" or something. I was like cracking up. And then I realized, like, after he did that like 20 more times, it was like, okay, now it's old. Now I don't
Like
want to see this ever again.
The really bad Australian accent.
Yeah. And now,
and
see,
then-
now it only has to last for like 2 weeks or whatever it is. We don't have to like keep going. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I don't even care who they cast because it's going to be like Big Brother fast forward. It's going to be over 3.5 weeks, something like that. Maybe it's 2.5 weeks, something. It's going to be like HOH veto, done, HOH veto. I mean, maybe not even a veto. Hell if I know what they're going to do. I have no inside knowledge. But I don't know. I feel like that having somebody like Frankie around would be okay because I do feel like, and maybe you guys, I'll ask you guys, I feel like Frankie is in on the joke. Do you guys think that Frankie is in on the joke? Because I feel like he is.
Oh, okay. I recently just went and saw The Disaster Artist. And I feel like Frankie may be in on the joke in the same way that Tommy Wiseau is now in on his joke. In that, like, when he was on Big Brother initially, he was not in on his own joke.
Right.
And then afterward, I think he was probably disappointed with the reaction. And now he knows what is out there and sort of plays into it in some way that's like, no, but this is just who I am. And now I'm playing into it, guys.
Yeah, this is just like for fun. This is the character.
I feel like he goes out of his way to like troll people and irritate people with the glitter and the flame and all that. I feel like he really likes to just irritate the living, you know what, out of people with like, oh my God, it's Frankie again, you know, because that's where he gets his jollies. Like that's where he gets his screen time, is like he's the guy you love to hate for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of like, you know, when you leave the house and you see that you were universally disliked, there aren't a lot of different options that you have in terms of coping. Like you can just like back away from the spotlight, but that's obviously not going to happen with Frankie. And like one of the options is lean into it and like be like, no, this is who I am, and I'm going to start to enjoy this, because what else am I going to do? Just like be sad all the time because people hate me? Like, or you can try to change their opinion of you. And I think that he definitely has taken the route of like, I'm going to ignore the haters in terms of like what it does to like my feelings, and then just kind of like be myself and egg them on as much as I can. And you know, I can't fault him for that. You know,
he's listening to like he's listening to the sycophants in his life, like the people that are like, yes, Queen, yes, we love you, Frankie, yes, you and your sister.
Reminds me of someone.
I know. Right? Hey, look, you know what? You know, here's the thing, people. I'm in on the joke. Like, I know my strengths and my weaknesses. I know what people hate about me. I know what they dislike about me on a podcast generally. You know, I feel like I have a pretty, like, I feel like I'm very much like Kevin Martin in this respect. Like, I'm self-aware enough to know what's good about me, what can be improved, and what's my draw? What's my place in the world? You know what? I feel like if you at least are sort of in on the joke, then people can get on board with you. Whereas I feel like that if you're not in on the joke, like Frankie was during Big Brother, I keep saying Big Brother Canada. I got Big Brother Canada on the brain. During Big Brother 16, during the second half, that was no fun. I hate that kind of Frankie.
No, I think that's actually very true of you. I think like one of the things I see the most, apart from just like whenever there's like the yes queen people with you, Brent, and then there's also the people that were like, you know, initially I was like not a fan, but then I've come around. Like I've come to appreciate, like I understand him now, and I can appreciate what he brings to the podcast. And I feel like that's exactly where we want people to be. You know, I think we all bring something different to the podcast, and you know, even if you don't relate to one of the people, you can hopefully relate to one of the other people and appreciate what the others bring.
I sent you that tweet. I won't read the name, but it was basically like, Brent's flipping terrible. He butts in all the time. But Taran's consistent though.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
and there are people that are going to be like, Taran's the worst. At least we've got Brent spilling the true tea. You know, it's like we do our best. What was I going to say?
I'm sorry, Big Brother, or Celebrity Big Brother we were talking about. And
yes,
the people who were going to be on it, like Frankie Grande and others.
So yes, others. Another heavily rumored person is Johnny Bananas from The Challenge. I think a lot of people are pretty confident that we're going to see him on the show. I had never watched The Challenge. I recently watched a season, and it had Johnny Bananas in it. And he's kind of a crazy but very aggressively strategic guy. I'll be interested to see what he does in the house if he gets in there.
Yeah, I have at least done a little bit of homework on The Challenge. I haven't watched the season yet, but I've watched a couple episodes. I know who Johnny Bananas is. I got the story of how he got the nickname Johnny Bananas, which is sort of interesting.
I don't know. They weren't calling him Bananas at the time when I watched it.
I won't get into it now, but
okay.
I think
I can guess.
He's got a fun backstory, and he seems like a really fun, aggressive guy. And so I'd be on board. Again, it's 2.5 weeks. So it's not going to be the Big Brother that we've come to love.
Yeah,
it's going to be some bastardized version of Big Brother. So let's have fun.
Yeah, and if you hate the people, like, okay, well, it'll be over in 2 weeks. Yeah. Like, it's not even a big deal.
Yes, and we will of course get Ali Lasher on the podcast to talk about Johnny Bananas if he is indeed on the show. So we'll have that to look forward to as well. She can give us a primer. She can educate us on who this guy is. The season that I watched, he like got in a bar fight and like had a big cut down his eye for the rest of the season. So you know, we're in for something. Yeah. But yeah, like overall, like, are you guys looking forward to Big Brother Celebrity? Like, there's still a lot that we don't know about it, so it's hard to say one way or the other. Like, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? I'm happy that we're getting more Big Brother. So I'm like somewhat cautiously optimistic. It could be terrible, but here's the thing: even if it is terrible, the fact that it's so short, it makes it a lot better for me, to be honest. And a lot of people are disappointed at the length, but like if it's really good, then great. We got a couple of weeks of really good Big Brother, and that's great. And maybe we'll do it next time. It'll be fun. And if it's bad, it'll be over before we even know it. And so it's like whenever there's a show that I want to watch, I watch a lot of TV shows. If there's a really long show like The Challenge with like 50 seasons, then it's like this has to be amazingly good, or I just don't want to watch it. There's way too much of it. But if there's a really short show, then I'm like, you know what? Even if it's bad, it was short, it was quick, it was fun. I'll give it a shot. So I'm looking forward to it. Melissa, what do you think?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess. I usually don't like it when there are like celebrity versions of things. I just find it like not as good as the original. So I'm interested. The thing is that we already know because of the length that it's not going to be our normal Big Brother. So I really don't know what to expect. Like, I have no idea how they're going to do all of the things that are incorporated in a normal Big Brother season in 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm excited because it's something new and it's something Big Brother related. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, just like I was interested in OTT. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see.
I can empathize with the fans out there. It's something new, and you're disappointed with the length. I get it, but I do feel like you're supposed to laugh at that joke. Neither one of you did. God damn it. I think Taran, you're reading tweets, and Melissa's off on Never Never Land.
I was looking for questions.
It was funny. The chat room laughed anyway.
I'm trying to load the chat.
I know, right?
Everyone knows that the best joke is the one where you say, "No, guys, I promise it was funny."
Yeah, I know, right? This is funny. Come on, I swear. No, for real. I feel like it's going to be it's like a primer or like a little appetizer for Big Brother Canada 6, which, by the way, I will again tell you guys that Rob Cesternino had a huge hand in getting that back on TV. So if you are excited about Big Brother Canada 6 coming back, then you need to bow down to a little bit of RHAP power, because through Rob and all the people who signed that petition, I really do think that was one of the biggest reasons why they decided to, they initially put it on hiatus, and then they said, you know what, we actually are
crazy.
Coming back. That really was crazy.
Yeah, that was probably the craziest moment, you know, in all of this year's Big Brother.
It really was. And to see it happen, and to see Arissa's excitement over it happening.
I love Arissa.
Oh, I do too. Great. She's so great.
Yeah, we almost lost Big Brother Canada, and that would have been a huge loss, you know.
I feel like we did it. Like we all really did it. Like we actually made a difference. I feel like every year we're like, no one's going to listen to us. The producers aren't going to listen to us. They're not going to like take the fact that we don't want to add like one person in the house. They aren't going to listen to the fact that we don't want like fan votes, you know, like we always think we're totally powerless. And it shows that like, you know, we can do stuff. We can really, you know, influence and impact Big Brother.
You gotta pick your battles. I feel like Rob picked it wisely.
That was the most important battle for sure.
And I think it's also like important, like for as much as we might say like, oh, 2017 sucked for these shows, like we still love these shows and we will keep them on the air. You know,
well, just to be clear,
valleys, but
I never ever put Big Brother Canada in that. It was a CBS question, you know, about 2017. It was, you know, the Game Changers, HHH, Survivor, and Big Brother 19. You know, that was a really terrible year for them. But I never ever included Big Brother Canada 5 in that mix because it wasn't CBS, at least, you know, not in, and it's not USA. So they were totally immune from my criticism. Obviously, I had some problems with that season, but overall it was a fantastic season of Big Brother.
And even when Big Brother's not good, it's still Big Brother. Like it's still so fun.
I feel like if we can get through Big Brother 19, I feel like we can get through anything because that was my toughest season ever, you guys. It really was. More than 16, because at least 16, Derek was a likable person and he had a family and everything. I was rooting for him, you know, or I wasn't rooting for him, but I could understand.
But then by the end, I would like him to win.
Yes, exactly, because it was so amazing. So at least I could do that. This season really tested me, but thank God Josh won at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like Big Brother US at the very least is striving. You know, it's doing better than ever. They're doing a celebrity version. They want more of it on the air. I think Big Brother 19 did really well in the ratings, actually. I think that the most recent Survivor season also did really well. So good year in terms of the business side of the Big Brother and Survivor in the US at the very least. And you know, hopefully we got to really cross our fingers here for Big Brother Canada 6. They also lost their studio. Like where like the house, I think they need to get a new house. So like I
hate it when I misplace my house.
Not looking great for them there, but you know, hopefully we get a good season. Hopefully they get some good ratings and we don't have to go through another whole fight to keep it on the air again. But
we need to all watch.
Yes. I mean, as much as you can if you're not in that country. So just tweet about it a lot, you know, show them
tweet about it, retweet stuff, reply, share, like just do as much as you can to keep it out there.
Listen to podcasts. But yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to in the coming year. We're going to get 3 seasons of Big Brother. We're going to get Celebrity, Big Brother Canada 6, and Big Brother 20. So very, very much looking forward to that. Do you guys think they're going to bring back some returning players again for Big Brother Canada 6? I've heard some speculation, like, you know, who knows? Maybe they're thinking about it.
I honestly, I'm so happy it's
more viewers.
I'm so happy it's back. I don't care. And as long as it's not Ica, because I love me Ica, but I feel like it would be very much the Paul effect. Like, I mean,
we can't have that.
So good last season. Like, not now, girl, not now.
Yeah.
Maybe next season, if you're like, maybe during 7. Dimitri, I could probably handle, but I can't. Not Ica and Dimitri. Please don't do that.
Although, what about Baby 20? Like, that's like prime time for All Stars.
I don't know. You know,
I know we say it every year, but
you would think so. We say that every year. It's 20. Like, you know, Steve said last year that he didn't he think that 19 was going to be because they renewed it for 2 seasons. And anyway, the point being that I would love for them to do a full All Stars. Again, it's so funny. They just it's like they're our parents or something. They just don't want to give us what we want. Like, we want a full All Stars. They're like, no, we're just gonna put one person.
And we don't want that. That's the exact opposite of what we want. I'd much prefer either a full All Stars or an all newbies.
Like, what's wrong with that, Taran? Is there something I'm missing? Seriously, I'm asking both of you. What am I missing as to why they would rather put half and half in the house rather than a full All Stars? Why will they not just put
paying them less money?
Is that it? That can't be it.
I mean, I think
cheap show to produce.
I think what I remember reading is that they feel like they don't have enough people to put on an all-star like worthy people to put on an all-star season, which I obviously vehemently disagree with.
Vehemently disagree with.
From their perspective, I think they feel like they can only bring back big characters, and they just don't have enough big characters to bring back.
So annoying. That's enough with the characters. I just want good players.
I mean, Boogie was. They brought back Boogie, and he was nobody. And look what he evolved into.
Right.
You know, if you're listening out there, please just give us what we want. Put in like 16, 20 people. Previous players, all played before, all hungry for the money. I love the fact that they have pre-existing relationships, because it's like, is it the devil you know or the devil you don't know? You know, are you going to go with the people that you knew outside the house, or are you going to stab them in the back? If you stab them in the back, they're going to be that much more hurt when you eventually send them to the jury. And can they vote for you? I feel like that's all intriguing. That would be fun.
Yeah.
I would totally want to see an All-Stars.
And it's like with All-Stars, you don't get the effect nearly as much, at least, of like the degradation of public opinion, where it's like, you know, Paul coming back with a bunch of new players. Like, there's no chance for Paul to be a liked player there. Like I said, the second that Paul came, the rumor was that like Paul was on the season. I was like, well, people are going to hate Paul now. And of course they did. Like, there was nothing that Paul could have done to make him a like loved character and do well at the same time. Like, he was either going to go out early and still be loved, or he was going to make it to the end and be hated. It's very, very much the, you know, you're only a hero until you become the villain. You live long enough to become the villain. And that's really true of like basically anyone. Like Suri Fields is basically the only person between Big Brother and Survivor that's managed to come on like so many times and still be loved. I honestly can't think of anyone else. That's been on. I guess you know, Janelle has been on 3 times now, and she's still loved, but she went on early in 14. So
yeah, and I feel like during 14 she lost a little bit of her luster.
That's true.
So I feel like if she came back again, and by the way, that woman does not age. Have you guys seen her on Instagram? I mean, Melissa, she's had 3 kids, and she looks like she does from 20 years ago. She looks absolutely flipping amazing. Anyway, I would love to see her back, because I feel like that people would sort of forget about the fact that she's a bomb-ass player who could actually do some damage.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this year in Big Brother?
Not for me. I will say that Melissa's our first year together, so congrats again. Yay. And I hope you're having a good time covering Big Brother with us. I'm looking forward to the new year with Celebrity Big Brother Canada 6, and obviously Big Brother 20, which we pray is an All-Stars, but we should be spending a lot of time together. I hope you got your, I don't know, boots on or whatever to handle Brent for an entire season of three seasons of Big Brother, because I'm gonna bring it.
I am ready. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is a year of Melissa. I'm so happy that we have you on. You're probably my favorite edition of 2017. So very, very happy to have you.
You were the only good thing. You were the only good thing about 2017, Melissa.
The only good thing. That's it. I'll take that.
Well, I think that's all we've got for you. Make sure you check out the Taran show. I just did a holiday special. I talked with Lita, who was on many of the morning updates, and Dom from the Dom and Colin podcast. We talked about holidays and how we feel about them, and it talked about Santa, which is apparently a lot more controversial than I thought it was. So
by the way,
check that one out.
I would check that out. And also, if you guys listen to part 1 of my interview on the Taran show, when I talked about the staircase murders and the Peterson trial, my favorite murder, which is a really, really fun podcast, picked the staircase murders to cover for their 100th episode. So I tweeted about it actually a couple hours ago. You can check out that link. And they continually referred to me as Diddley Guy. So they have a little bit of a soft spot for yours truly. So I'm on board with them.
That's so exciting. I'll have to listen.
You know, right?
Yes, and I recently did an interview with Matt Hoffman, who is a great guest on these recap of the recap episodes in particular.
I love that tradition. I love that tradition that's him. That's his spot, you know.
So lots of fun stuff happening there. You can also, of course, check out. We mentioned the Big Brother 2 documentary. That's still out there, still going. There's still people listening to it and tweeting us about it. So make sure you check that one out. Hopefully we're going to be making one for season 3 at some point in the near future. And you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's.
That never gets old. Never.
And Brent is at Brent. No, sorry, he's at one lucky day.
Yeah, only dumbasses put at Brent. So yeah,
Okay.
It's at one lucky day.
And we will be seeing you in February. Maybe we'll do one more off-season Big Brother podcast. In the meantime, I'm sure we're going to preview the season once it's released and all of that stuff. So looking forward to all of that coming up. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next time.